Hamas has attacked Israel. Hundreds dead, confirmed, thousands wounded, and it just keeps rising. October 7th, 2023 will absolutely go down in history as the beginning of the end. This is a very significant and special date, October 7th. And we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about why September 22nd still is the legitimate day, in my opinion, for the 1290 count from Daniel 12:11. And we're also going to talk about, is what just happened on October 7th, is this Israel's 9/11? There's a lot of suspicious stuff going on. Let's get into it. My name's Abraham Ojeda. Welcome back to Overcome Babylon. If you're new, thank you for checking out this video. And we're going to talk about some really heavy-duty prophecy, things that most of those other crusty YouTube channels don't talk about because they don't know the time clock of the Most High God. But by God's grace, we figured out the time clock of the Most High God. We don't have it perfect, but man, we definitely know the season that we're in right now. And link in the description. Download Bible Prophecy Secrets for free. Everything you need is in this book to understand all the things I'm going to be breaking down. It will be more advanced. You will have to have had prior knowledge by reading the historical, archaeological, all the evidence to understand the cycles of the Most High God, the 49-year cycles of history. You have to have a foundation, but I'm going to get into this. I'm going to do my best to cover what the heck just happened with October 7th. It really started with rocket blasts, rocket blasts. It was confirmed that from Fars News, and a pro-Iranian news source, that 5,000 rockets had been fired into Israel early Saturday to begin Operation Al-Aqsa Storm. And basically Hamas, who is backed and funded by Iran, started attacking Israel. And there's evidence of foreign mercenaries being involved. There's all kinds of different factions and people involved. But the point is that this attack really is the beginning of the end. Now you got Hezbollah being involved in the north. You got all kinds of stuff going on now. But it all started with these 5,000 rockets and then ground troops coming in and basically doing whatever they want. And that's where the suspicion comes in. It's like, wait a minute, I thought this was the most advanced military in the Middle East. I thought IDF and their intelligence apparatus was like in the know. They've always got things figured out. They've got the Iron Dome. We're going to talk about all these things, but before we talk more about October 7th and this attack by Hamas, which is now initiating the beginning of the end and bringing us 100% to nuclear war very, very soon. We're going to talk about that. Let's just rewind and let's figure out how we got here in the first place, okay? Because remember, I had been warning about September 22nd for a really long time, over a year. I was warning about September 22nd. Let's just go back and let's take a look at the developments that happened before this broke out. This new war in Israel broke out. So September 21st, if you recall, I talked about this in the very last video that I do. By the way, check out the live streams. I do more live streams than I do videos on this channel. But the International Day of Peace, okay, that was the UN's International Day of Peace on September 21st. Oh, peace, 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 right? Alarm bells should be going off in your spirit because of some things we read about in the Bible. And then September 22nd, in the New York City meeting, the SDGs, right? Everybody on YouTube was speculating, oh, this is the beginning of the 7-year covenant with many. That's all nonsense. It's all foolishness. We're not looking for a 7-year covenant. That's crap. What we're looking for is key players to take the stage and to take down Jerusalem. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the abomination of desolation. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. We're going to talk about that. But so during this UN New York City meeting, Netanyahu made the foolish declaration of a peace deal with Saudi Arabia while showing maps of a new Middle East. And this, let me tell you, this provoked a lot of people. Obviously, he's reaping the consequences for doing this. And that was on September 22nd. New Middle East. Oh, there's going to be peace with Saudi Arabia. And then what happens, right? The very next day. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, September 22nd was also important because Iran held a military parade showcasing its drones that are capable of reaching Israel with a payload. They're able to carry a payload of over 600 pounds. So Iran is parading their military, their drones, their equipment in the streets. Israel's crying out for peace, peace, peace. Everything's going to be just fine. Very, very obviously contradictory events taking place on that very significant day of September 22nd. But then you have the Revelation 12 sign of Virgo appearing, a double illumination event. I don't completely understand all the nuances with it. I'm not that great at astronomy, honestly. But it's said to be extremely, extremely rare. And you have this comet going through the womb and all kinds of stuff. I don't totally understand it. But there was this Virgo Revelation 12 sign that actually appeared on September 22nd. Around that time frame, it already appeared a little bit before, it appeared a little bit after, but September 22nd, it was visible, okay? Then, September 23rd, this is what happened after Netanyahu was like, oh, we're going to have peace with Saudi. Well, you know, his political allies back in Israel didn't feel the same way. And there was this article that was published saying that they openly opposed the peace deal proposition that Netanyahu made during the UN meeting, and they threatened. So Netanyahu's hardline political allies, supposedly hardline, threatened to further divide and destabilize the political structure of the country if Palestine were to receive any sort of concessions. And so, again, this is where we start to get to where we are today, October 7th. What's going on, right? What just happened October 7th? Because it's like, okay, is there betrayal going on? Is there conspiracy within the Israeli government? Like, what's going on here? Because there's threats to destabilize and divide the country if necessary, if this peace deal that Netanyahu proposed ever came to fruition. So it's like, what's going on here? This is highly suspicious, right? That such statements would be made by members of Netanyahu's political party and affiliation and so forth. So, September 26th, it is rumored that the highly secretive intelligence apparatus of Israel, Mossad, I believe that is a censored word here, but completed a successful attack of one of Iran's underground bases. This was first picked up by IDF radio intercom along with Times of Israel, but one of Iran's underground bases was attacked by Israel. And so the question is, was this a place of nuclear weapons development? Very highly provocative attack. I mean, provoking Iran into a confrontation further and further, which is really, I'm going to explain that. We're really looking for Iran now at this point. We're looking for Iran to step up on the world stage. We're going to talk about exactly why. We're going to look at one of the prophets together today from the Bible, and we're going to understand why that's happening. September 28th, there was an Office of Naval Intelligence leak. China building naval ships 232 times faster than the USA. And the purpose of this is to invade North America. And I've talked about this before. This is the locusts prophecy of Joel chapter 2. The locust armies, millions of men are coming, and they will invade North America. This is exactly what's been prophesied by Joel. I've been warning about this, and you literally see the evidence of this right here. Then on October 1st, the president of Iran, Sayed Ibrahim Raisi, makes this chilling remark during this 37th International Islamic Unity Conference in Tehran on Sunday. Israel's collapse to happen sooner than expected. The option of surrender and compromise are by no means on the table. Resistance and resilience against the enemy has paid off and will force the enemy to retreat. Well, so that was on October 1st. We're literally seeing that. That's what we've been witnessing. And so, again, it's very important. If you've been following the Telegram, Overcome Babylon Telegram, there's a link in the description. Make sure you're following that. I'm posting stuff in there all the time. And if you want to see raw footage of what's going on in Israel and really in Crimea or Ukraine or anything, there's WW3 Info, WW3INFO. I'm going to post a link to that also. That Telegram has just raw footage. It can be very, very graphic, but it's very, very cutting edge stuff. Like, you'll get news before the news gets it, basically, like news media outlets. So I'll post that link as well, but that's why it's important to like stay up to date. Like, now is the time to be a watchman more than ever. And you literally have the president of Iran on October 1st saying, yeah, Israel's collapse is going to happen soon. It's like, how do they know with such certainty? It seems as if there's internal elements of the Israeli government that are compromised. Like, there's so much assertiveness and confidence in what I'm seeing here, and it came true. So obviously Iran is playing a humongous role in what's going on, and they will continue to play a humongous role. Then on October 1st, another thing that happened was the U.S. Department of Defense's 2023 strategy for countering weapons of mass destruction report found that Iran has the capacity to produce enough fissile material for a nuclear device in less than 2 weeks. So this was huge, absolutely huge. In less than 2 weeks, they have the ability to build a nuclear weapon or nuclear devices or many nuclear bombs, right? This is so key. This is so significant for prophecy. Again, this was on October 1st. We're getting into the second week of October now, right? This is so important. What I just said about Iran having the capability, the capacity to produce nuclear weapons in less than 2 weeks. Come on, they already have them, right? But they deny the existence of it. They deny any inspectors from coming in and examining their nuclear stuff going on. It's highly secretive. Iran is highly secretive, but trust me, they're ready. That's why everything's happening now the way it's happening with Hamas, their military arm, basically a proxy of Iran, doing what they're doing in Israel and Gaza, and now it's going all over the place. October 5th. October 5th was important because we successfully predicted in Bible Prophecy Secrets, on page 290, we predicted that Meshech, which is Turkey, would become involved with World War III as a direct opponent of the West, of Western allies, of the Western power structure. This series of events began with the U.S.-led coalition that shot down a Turkish drone that approached one of its military bases in the Tal Baydar area north of Hasaka. The Turkish army then began bombing large parts of eastern Syria in response to this event. Turkish drones bombed the Saida oil station in the city of Tarbesbe and the Hasaka countryside. And there was attacks on oil fields, dams, vital service facilities along with the geography of northeastern Syria on the border with Turkey. Turkey began destroying the civil infrastructure and a new war broke out on October 5th. The proxy armies of the United States versus Turkey. This is a new thing that happened right before what we're seeing now in the Middle East, right, with Israel. So significant because Turkey's like, no, you're not even supposed to be here. Why would you shoot down a drone that belongs to us when you're not even legally like, why are you even here? Basically, was the Turkish response to the United States proxies shooting down a drone that belonged to them. So that highly significant event started taking place on October 5th. Then also on October 5th, the head of NATO's military committee warned that the bottom of the barrel of weapon stockpiles is now visible due to the depletion of munitions in the Ukrainian war effort. I've talked about this with Cyrus Harding. We did a video on this in July of 2022, a while ago. And we talked about the purpose of the Ukraine war was to deplete Western resources, but because you cannot build the engines, you can't build all the parts and materials and everything needed for munitions, for rockets. It takes a lot of time for all these corporations of Raytheon and Lockheed and all these different corporations, military defense corporations, to build things. It just takes time. And now they're at the bottom of the barrel of stockpile. And now that the West has wasted their resources, now all of a sudden you see what we're seeing. Doesn't it make sense? Iran is rising up. Hamas is rising up. Let's take a look at October 6th. October 6th. For us here in North America, right? I'm in North America. October 6th, it was like 11 at night, so 11 p.m. Mountain time, so that'd be like, what? 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's when, so that was already October 7th technically for the East Coast, but that's when we started seeing all this stuff with Hamas in Gaza. This is where we started seeing the military operation. 5,000 rockets launched at Israel early in the morning during the Sabbath day after the false Hallel 2 calendar Sukkot had finished. And if you're new to the channel, The Sukkot of the Jews, of mainstream Judaism, is different from the Sukkot of the Bible. The Sukkot of Judaism is always a month late, usually always a month late from the correct agricultural and prophetic time clock of the Most High God as revealed in the Scriptures. I explain all of that in Bible Prophecy Secrets. Go check that out. Download it for free. So the false Jewish Sukkot is when God decided to finally judge. And I had been warning about this. I thought it was going to be Yom Kippur. I really thought it was going to be Yom Kippur. I was like, well, I don't know what God's waiting for, but we know the prophecy. We know that Jerusalem's going to be surrounded by armies. We know these things are about to take place during the 70th week of Daniel. We know we're living in the 70th week of Daniel. We count 1290 from the middle of the week. Boom, we're here anytime now, anytime. And sure enough, on the 8th day of Sukkot, Shemini Atzeret is how it's called in Hebrew. On the 8th day, that is when Hamas launched its surprise attack. So basically, October 6th and the really at night here for us in North America was already October 7th for Israel. That's when all this started going down. Hundreds were reported to be wounded, injured, or killed during the initial onslaught that was carried out by rocket barrages along with ground troops of Hamas, Palestinian militia forces. It looks like there's some foreign mercenaries, like I said, Iranian. Here's the thing. Israel's military bases were captured. There's some that were captured in Gaza. Infrastructure was captured. Armored vehicles. Israeli hostages were taken from IDF. Civilians were taken hostage. One of the Air Force bases had to be evacuated because they were just overrun so quickly. And I get it. It was a holiday for the Israeli people. I get it. But doesn't this just sound so much like 9/11? Doesn't it sound like so much like standing down and not? I don't know, man. This is a lot of suspicious stuff going on because it took Netanyahu like 3.5 hours to respond to the attacks and do a public address. It reminds me so much of George Bush taking forever to do a public address. He's too busy reading a children's book in an elementary school. There's so many parallels to 9/11 that I'm seeing here because, again, we're talking about technically the most advanced military in the Middle East. It's like, what are they doing? What were they doing? And then there was other reports of, because of the internal political strife, some reservists are like, no, we're not going to go out and come against the forces of Hamas. We're not interested in doing that. Just like we talked about the reservists, and because of the political situation, even the troops have lost their morale in Israel, and it's just crazy what we're seeing, unprecedented for sure. And so this is I brought you up to speed pretty much. Hamas, they came in by air, by land, by sea even, and they used paragliders. They did all kinds of stuff to infiltrate the borders of Israel in a very much blitzkrieg style attack. Here's what's interesting too. From the USGS earthquake map, there were 6 earthquakes of magnitude 5.9 or higher. We're looking at Nepal. Well, Nepal was a 5.0. We're looking at Mexico, Afghanistan, and Papua New Guinea. All had massive earthquakes. And so you just can't help but wonder, the earth is testifying of the final birth pangs before the Great Tribulation begins. I told you the Great Tribulation would begin on September 22nd. What I didn't realize is that the setting up of the abomination of desolation and the actual deployment of the abomination of desolation to actually desolate or destroy Jerusalem are 2 different events. But let me tell you something before we get into that. We have now seen the words of Paul, 1 Thessalonians 5, 1-3, fulfilled before our very eyes. This is what it says. But concerning the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. So there's a lot of talk about pregnancy in the end times and last days. This is one place, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 1-3. A pregnant woman, the earthquakes, magnitude 5.9 and higher, right? Multiple earthquakes. The Virgo, the sign of Virgo, she's in labor, right? You have all these confirming signs that something is about to be birthed, and it's called tribulation. Something is about to take place. Peace and safety, said the UN on their International Peace Day, September 21st. Peace and safety, said Netanyahu on September 22nd in New York City. And when they said peace and safety, sudden destruction came. So the words of Paul have now actually been fulfilled before our eyes, because we are not just seeing any other time in history. We are seeing the day of the Lord, the day of Yehovah. I've talked about this. Now let's talk about why I'm saying the things I'm saying about September 22nd. What do I mean by the setting up of the abomination of desolation is different from the actual deployment of the abomination of desolation? What do we expect next now that Israel is in a hot war with Hamas, which is a proxy of Iran? Hezbollah is on the way, and trust me, there's more. There's Taliban. I'm seeing rumors of Taliban. This is all developing. This is all developing. More rockets are being fired as we're doing this video. Thousands of more rockets are being launched against Israel. This is an ongoing thing. The mainstream news outlets of Israel are underreporting the casualties and underreporting the chaos, so as to preserve morale and those types of things. But it's looking like it's worse than what we're hearing in the news. This is happening quickly. This is going to happen very, very quickly. In fact, this could be the last video that I ever do for Overcome Babylon. And I'm up late, I'm doing it, but this could be the very last video. Not that I want it to be, but I don't know how much longer until we see that abomination of desolation in Jerusalem. There's extreme desolation, mushroom clouds visible from the Suez Canal, the smoke rising up, visible from the Suez Canal, and all the merchants, all the kings of the earth who committed fornication with the Mystery Babylon petrodollar and the Mystery Babylon system. They're going to be crying and weeping when they see the smoke of the mushroom clouds visible from the sea, from the Mediterranean, from the Suez Canal. I've been warning about this. It looks like this is all about to be fulfilled in the next couple of weeks. Let's talk about what this looks like. But first, here's what we can expect next. There's a live that we did. We did a live talking about the Zechariah 5 prophecy. At the very end of the live stream, we talked about the Zechariah 5 prophecy. Go check that out. There's a hidden prophecy in the Bible that I failed to notice. This is a 400-page book, and I failed to notice, right? So it's already a lot in here. But I failed to notice that Zechariah chapter 5 speaks of nuclear weapons. It speaks of military technology in the form of flying scrolls. And with the Hebrew vocabulary and the Hebrew vernacular that Zechariah the prophet was able to use at that time to express his thoughts and record scripture for us through the pen, the Holy Spirit's inspiration, he said he saw flying scrolls over the face of the entire earth. This is the curse that goes out through the entire earth, it says in Zechariah chapter 5. Well, go check out that live for a deeper dive, but let me just tell you the quick, right to the point. Flying scroll, cylindrical object with a fire offering inside of it with a lead container that obviously protects from uranium, and lead is a final product of the stability of radioactive uranium, so it decays down to lead. So all the things that Zechariah said in this prophecy, he was describing military technology, he was describing the wickedness, the abomination of a nuclear weapon, and he said, oh, by the way, it's going to be in Shinar, in the land of Shinar. You know where the Tigris and Euphrates are? Commonly referred to as Persia, right? This is anciently known as the land of Persia, Assyria, Babylon, but it's Iran. It's going to be set there. Let's take a look at it. Zechariah chapter 5, verse 11. This is what it says. Let's look at verse 10. I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? The lead container with this fire offering inside the flying scroll, cylindrical object. And he said unto me, to build it an house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own base. Well, doesn't that sound, and set there upon her own base, doesn't that sound exactly like Daniel chapter 12, verse 11? From the time that the daily is taken away, again, sacrifice, that's not found in the Hebrew language right there. Just daily life, tamid. From the time 2020 happened and lockdowns happened, that was taken away, daily life, the ability to go to Jerusalem, the ability to worship God, the ability to go to church, and the abomination of desolation is set up. There shall be 1,290 days. So from the time of the daily to the abomination of desolation, 1,290 days. And it says that the desolation is set up. Not deployed necessarily, but set up. That's the key word of Daniel 12:11. Set up. And let me tell you something, especially with that article that I already showed you. The abomination of desolation was set up. Iran is ready. 2 weeks and they're ready. And that was from October 1st. But 2 weeks and they're ready to launch a nuclear missile. They already have it. They're already ready. It was set up on September 22nd, I believe. I can't show you. This is classified information. So don't burden me by saying, oh, you got to show me proof and evidence and video. Well, I'm not. And if I were in the intelligence community of the United States, well, guess what? That'd be considered top secret. That'd be considered highly classified. So it's something that we don't, in my understanding, the way I'm seeing the connection between Zechariah 5, Daniel 12, Revelation 8, Revelation 9, all these different passages, I don't have time to break it all down. But it looks like the setting up of the abomination of desolation, as we were told by Zechariah the prophet in Zechariah 5, being set up in the land of Shinar, it took place on September 22nd. I don't think we were wrong about September 22nd after all. I don't think we need to be counting, okay, well, I guess it wasn't March 11th, 2020 for the lockdowns. I guess maybe that wasn't the takeaway to me. Let's count 1,290 from March 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I don't think that's how this works anymore. I think September 22nd was the date. We're going to find out soon. We'll get more clarity on that. I think that Iran set up the abomination of desolation in Shinar, and all they're doing is just waiting for the moment when they have enough justification that everything's ready, all their allies are ready, everything's in place to launch the desolation of Jerusalem. And that, when we see that, is what our master said. When you see the abomination of desolation, not the setting up of it, not the behind the scenes setting up of this top secret classified intel, not the setting up, but when you see the desolation, Matthew 24:15, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place. Whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Then let him who is in the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. Let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And here's the thing. Matthew 24:20 gives us the clue. Now that we're here, in this point in history, we have the clue of what we're looking for. Matthew 24:20. Pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. Okay, it's already winter. In Israel, it's already winter. There's 2 seasons, summer and winter, according to the Bible. It's already winter in Israel. Sabbath. Pray that your flight may not be on the Sabbath. So we're looking for a Sabbath. We're looking for a Sabbath for when the Great Tribulation is going to begin. The Great Tribulation will begin with fleeing on a Sabbath day, because the abomination of desolation will either be visible on a Friday night, a Friday night, or a Saturday, where people are fleeing on a Shabbat, on a Friday night to Saturday night. That's a Shabbat, Erev to Erev, Friday night to Saturday night. So people are going to be fleeing on a Shabbat. So the next Sabbath's coming up, October 14th, as I'm filming this, October 14th is one of the next Sabbaths, October 21st, October 28th, November 4th, and November 11th. I'm not going to go much further beyond that, though. Here's where I think it all ties in. Remember what I talked to you about. Let's go to Daniel 12. 12. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. Remember that? I talked about in Bible Prophecy Secrets. Remember that? 1335. Blessed is he who comes and waits. What I'm thinking is, what this means is, that's November 6th. If you take March 11th, 2020, you add 1335, you get November 6th. 1,335 days, you get November 6th of this year, 2023. Are you with me? Blessed is he, happy is the word, is he who waits and comes to the, what I'm thinking is November 6th. If we understand that interpretation, well, let's see how this plays out. What if, and shout out to my brothers and sisters in Kingdom Secrets Academy. They've kind of helped understand some of these things. What if October 21st is the abomination of desolation Sabbath, the Sabbath of fleeing, and then there's 2 weeks of fallout from all the nuclear war that's about to happen, the Great Tribulation, nuclear war worldwide, and then November 6th, which is approximately 2 weeks after October 21st, November 6th, Happy is he who has survived nuclear war. So it could be October 21st. That could be the Sabbath of the abomination of desolation, the actual visible desolation of Jerusalem, the actual fleeing on the Sabbath. We're not there yet. Anybody who's saying the abomination of desolation has already happened, that's foolishness. That's nonsense. That has not happened yet. The abomination of desolation has not happened yet. Jerusalem is going to be visibly burned up. There's going to be clouds of smoke. That hasn't happened yet. We're almost there. So here are some scenarios. So October 14th is the next Sabbath. It just so happens to be an annular solar eclipse. Well, what does that mean? What do you mean annular solar eclipse? Well, it's called a ring of fire solar eclipse. It's called a ring of fire. And if you understand what a ring of fire solar eclipse is, it's pretty straightforward. Let's just go look at NASA. An annular solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth, but when it is at or near its farthest point from Earth. Because the moon is further away from the Earth, it appears smaller than the sun and does not completely cover the sun. As a result, by the way, that's all their interpretation. It just says it's a greater light and a lesser light in the Bible, but whatever. As a result, the moon appears as a dark disk on top of a larger bright disk, creating what looks like a ring around the moon. A ring of fire. A ring of fire. The next annular eclipse in the U.S. will be October 14th. Why is this important? Why am I even bringing this up? Well, this is happening October 14th. It just so happens that it says immediately after those days, Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, so abomination of desolation, maybe the start of the tribulation, immediately, right? It's immediate. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light. And then it says the stars will fall from heaven, the powers of the heavens will be shaken, which most likely is just a metaphor for the fact that the stars, the seed of Abraham, the nations of Abraham, all the Western nations are going to be shaken and they're going to fall. That's what that means, because it's going to be nuclear catastrophe. Look how close we are to all these things. It should really scare the hell out of you. It really should make you repent and get your life right with God. It really should make you call upon the King of Kings, Yeshua. It really should, okay? Because we're almost there. You know, a lot of people can laugh and scoff and do whatever they want, but it's going to be so short-lived. It's such a joke. Most people aren't going to be even alive in just if we're right about all this, most people aren't even going to be alive in a couple months to complain and call me a false prophet and run around blaspheming and acting like a bunch of children because they don't know how to just understand and look things up for themselves about September 22nd and understand the math and understand all the nuances. So all the rebels and all the wicked are going to be burned up. That's what Zechariah 5 says. And so October 14th could be the beginning of the abomination of desolation and the Great Tribulation. It could be October 14th. The sun being darkened. And then guess what happens on October 28th? There's a partial lunar eclipse on October 28th. How interesting is that? That's also a Sabbath. There's a partial lunar eclipse. The moon will not give its light. Now it's partial. First of all, before I talk about that, let's go back to the annular eclipse. This is what it looks like, the annular eclipse on October 14th, the Ring of Fire. The trajectory of these things can be very interesting to pay attention to. It's actually going to be highly visible along the state of Washington in the United States, down through Utah, New Mexico, and it'll be in South America, Central America, South America. That'll be the greatest visibility. You see that on screen. And then, let's just take a look. So that's the annular eclipse, October 14th. I didn't want to move ahead. I totally forgot to bring that up. And then partial lunar eclipse of October 28th. So we have two Sabbaths in this time period. One has a solar eclipse, one has a partial lunar. The partial lunar eclipse, guess what? It's going to be highly visible, basically dead center in the Middle East. Right there with Saudi Arabia and Israel. It's going to be dead center. So you have one sign that's highly visible in the United States, one sign that's highly visible in the Middle East. Usually, wherever the sign is visible, that is who the message, the omen from God is intended for. That's who the message, to whom the message is intended for. Pay attention to that. We don't know exactly what it means yet, but I've shown you the evidence. I've shown you the season. By God's grace, I've shown you what season we're living in. We're not like those other end times channels on YouTube that are like, oh, no one knows the day of the hour. Oh, we're just running around. I have no clue. Oh, God is good. I don't know, have any idea what's going to happen. I'm never going to do biblical hermeneutics and look at the Hebrew and Greek, but maybe I'll look at it here and there where I feel like it. We're not like those channels that cherry pick and screw around with the Word of God, but we've been very diligent here and very serious. I'm going to continue to be serious until I can't anymore. And so what I'm telling you is we're in the season of the Great Tribulation. I thought it was going to begin September 22nd. Praise God we had a little bit more time. But any one of these Sabbaths now, it is going to kick off. It will kick off. And when it does, just be remembered that at least there was somebody who was raised up by God during this time to at least give you a little bit of an advance notice.
So here I am, broken open, emptied of myself, of my regrets. You said you'd soon return, so I'll light a fire, guard the flame and let it burn. So here I am, broken open, yours alone. Await the day for you to come, to go back home. So please don't you tarry long in